A young mom is shopping at the grocery store for items for Thanksgiving, chatting on the phone with her mother, trying to get a recipe, and then she's never seen alive again. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us here at Crime Stories and Sirius XM 111. How did the whole thing start? Take a listen to this.
29-year-old Kelsey Berreth reported missing by her mother, Cheryl. Woodland Park Police Commander Chris Adams says a few days after Thanksgiving, her cell phone pinged nearly 800 miles away outside Gooding, Idaho, not far from where she has family. A Facebook page dedicated to the search for Kelsey is being followed by thousands. Her brother traveled to her home in Colorado, and after combing through her home, he is certain Kelsey did not pack to go anywhere. Nothing was taken from her home. Her cars are still in Colorado. The only thing missing is her purse.
Okay. I don't like it. Kelsey Berreth goes missing. The home apparently untouched. No struggle, nothing taken. What happened to Kelsey? And what about her baby girl? With me, an all-star panel to make sense of what we have learned. But first, to crimeonline.com investigative reporter Alexis Tereszcuk. Alexis, tell me about the video, the surveillance video in that grocery store that captured Kelsey walking along, and we now know, speaking to her mother about a Thanksgiving recipe. You know, no matter how many times I make homemade dressing, I still ask my mom about it. Same thing. A lot of chopped onions, a lot of chopped celery to where you think it's really too much, but it all melts away into the dressing. I go through the same thing. I make the same cornbread, squish it up with my hands every year, but I still ask her. And I wonder, I've always wondered, was that what Kelsey was talking to her mother about?
That's exactly what she was doing. Day before Thanksgiving, on the phone with her mom, she's getting ready to make her own meal. And she's just walking through the store. She's pushing the carts. She's chatting on the phone. Not a care in the world. And that was the last time she was seen in public.
We are talking about an incredible young woman, Kelsey Berreth, the mother of Kaylee, just 14 months old when her mom goes missing. Now, tell me about Kelsey. I want to know some more, but first, listen to our friends at Crime Online.
Cheryl Berreth spoke to her daughter Kelsey the morning of Thanksgiving Day. It was a normal conversation. Kelsey asked for a recipe that she needed. Later that day, Kelsey Berreth was captured by store security cameras at a Safeway store, shopping with her daughter. That is the last known time Kelsey Berreth was seen in public. Patrick Frazee is Kelsey Berreth's fiancé. He told police he last saw Kelsey on Thanksgiving afternoon when he picked up their daughter. After Thanksgiving Day, no one has come forward to say they saw or talked to Kelsey Berreth.
Okay, so we've got her covered through Thanksgiving. On Thanksgiving morning, she's speaking to her mother about that same recipe that she was shopping for in the Safeway the day before. She sees the fiancé who they're set to marry. He's the father of baby Kaylee. And then suddenly everything goes black. It's like you just cut the TV off. There's nothing there. Who is Kelsey Berreth? Very often, let me go to you, Dr. Jory L. Crossan, joining us, psychologist, former law enforcement, also faculty, St. Leo University, and consultant with the Blue Wall Institute. You can find him at drjory, JOREY.com. Dr. Jory, I always look at the victim when I can't figure something out. Not to blame the victim, but to figure out their lifestyle. For instance, if my victim, like in the Long Island serial killers case, is a sex worker, I'm going to look at where is she advertising? Who are her customers? Does she have regulars? What can you tell me about her activities? Does she have a family? Is she likely not to come home one night and nobody notices? But in this case, Kelsey was always home because she was the one taking care of the tot girl, Kaylee. So I look to her past. When you don't know what a horse is going to do, you look at the track record. You look what they've done look at what they've done before. So isn't that important to you in the study of victimology, Dr. Jory?
Yeah, if you want to be able to predict future behavior, you have to know past behavior. And her past behavior is pretty well, it's documented. It's very consistent. She's a young mother. Her focus is on her child. She's got good connections with her parents, her mother she's interacting with. She's planning for the holidays. So, this has probably been repeated several years in her life. She's in a romantic relationship. She's getting ready to be married. So all this is very predictable. And then all of a sudden it goes dark. That's very concerning.
Very concerning. And according to witnesses that I've spoken with, she would never, ever have left Kaylee unattended. That is not going to happen. But in this case,
definitely.
In this case, when she went missing, isn't this right, Alexis Chuck? She wasn't leaving Kaylee unattended. The fiancé had come to pick up Kaylee. So Kaylee was fine. She wasn't leaving Kaylee unattended.
No, she wasn't at all. And she had never done that before. Her family that wasn't even a concern in any way, shape, or form. That was nothing she had ever done. As you said, you look at the horse's track record. She was a perfect mother. There was never anything. Child Protective Services was never called. There was never a fight or a concern for the baby's welfare. She was a great mom.
Never once had there been a disturbance at her condo. Never once had social services been called. No problems in daycare. Nothing. She was completely devoted to Kaylee, which makes her disappearance even more concerning. So who's Kelsey Berreth? Listen.
29-year-old Kelsey Berreth grew up on a farm in Washington State, but she always dreamed of becoming a commercial pilot. She went to pilot school in Washington and moved to Colorado after meeting her fiancé online. Berreth was a flight instructor at Falcon Air Force Base in Grand Junction before taking her position at Doss Aviation in Pueblo, Colorado. Her boss says her desk at work had photos of her 1-year-old daughter and Bible verses. Kelsey's mother, Cheryl, said Kelsey was a great mom. Her daughter was her life.
Just thinking this whole thing through. Cheryl McCollum joining me, longtime friend and colleague, forensics expert. She claims we met on a crime scene. I don't know about that. She is the founder and director of the Cold Case Research Institute. She's a forensic expert, and she's a star of a hit new podcast series, Zone 7. Cheryl, you and I have investigated so many cases where our victim, whose life is just as important as any other life, is a dope addict, a dope dealer sometimes, a sex worker, a horrible mother, this, that, a car thief. How often do you find a victim whose desk is covered with photos of her daughter and Bible verses?
It's rare. So when you're looking at, is this person doing anything that's going to increase the likelihood that they would go missing on their own or go missing at the hands of somebody else, this woman doesn't check very many boxes. She's a pilot. She works at a base where there's people that could easily protect her. She goes to and from work. She's only with her daughter after that. She's a good mother. She's consistent. She stays in contact with her family. She doesn't disappear for days at a time. She doesn't gamble. She doesn't use drugs. She isn't with people that have a criminal background.
Can I ask you a question, Cheryl McCollum?
Of course.
Very often, and I'm not judging, I don't care, you hear moms want to do a girls' getaway. One of my best friends, her daughter is my daughter's best friend. She goes every year on a getaway with her college friends.
Mm-hmm.
And she's invited me. But I say, I don't really want any me time. They're going to be gone and graduated from high school and gone, scattered to the four corners, the Lord only knows where. In just a few years, I want to be with them every minute I can. But go have some me time. This woman, Kelsey Berreth, she didn't go for me time. She didn't want to go sit in one of those tubs of hot mud. She didn't want anybody putting those hot stones on her back or getting cut like Gwyneth Paltrow. She did not want to go wine tasting and wine country. All of those are wonderful things. She wanted one thing. She wanted to be with that baby. You know? So I believe, Cheryl McCollum, that you have been accused of having me time. And you call it wine and crime or something like that. But this is woman, back to the case, she didn't even want me time.
That's right. You know, it's funny because even when my sisters and I plan trips and getaways, our spouses and children are always included. So I agree. This woman, what was she doing the last day she was ever seen? Making Thanksgiving dinner, talking to her mom about recipes with the baby in hand.
Wait a minute, Cheryl. Right there, she's making Thanksgiving dinner, which means she didn't plan to go anywhere. She was cooking dinner. I am not slaving over the stove and the oven for 3 days straight and then not show up to dinner. That's not happening. No. So she was planning to be there that night. Kelsey Berreth was planning to be there that night. Joining me right now, in addition to Dr. Jory, Cheryl McCollum, Alexis Tereszchuk, is Eric Faddis, joining us out of this jurisdiction in Colorado, partner of Varner Faddis Elite Legal. Now, I didn't learn that in law school. There is a tier of the law that is elite. Eric Faddis, is that true?
There is, and it solely exists here at our firm in Colorado, actually. Regionally, that's where it is.
Eric Faddis joining me from Varner Faddis. This is the part I like. Former felony prosecutor, criminal defense attorney now. You can find him at varnerfaddis.com. Eric, what we're doing right now, and I'm sure you've done it a million times as a prosecutor, you sit around with your colleagues. Now, I know that starts like you're going to have lunch, or you're having a good old time. But what you're doing is you're talking about all the facts of the case, because each fact can be broken down and could very well be probative. In other words, prove something at trial. For instance, she was last seen by the public. We know her fiancé came and picked up the baby later, but she was seen in public on Safeway security cam going up and down the aisles. I believe she's talking on the phone. All right. Then her mother speaks to her on Thanksgiving morning. She's still cooking. She's asking again about this recipe. What does that mean? That means she was cooking dinner and she planned to be around that evening for Thanksgiving dinner. If you break apart each fact, which it is your duty to do as a prosecutor or a defense attorney, you kind of get into the mind of the victim. You can parse a fact, slice it up, and realize it proves so many different things.
Yeah, Nancy, I mean, you've got to explore the nuances as a prosecutor, right? These small details can really elucidate what your case is going to be. And like you said, in talking, sort of roundtabling these cases at the DA's office, you're also trying to think about what potential defenses could be. And here, in a disappearance case, you think, oh, is the defense going to argue suicide? Are they going to argue that this was someone else other than their client? But as Cheryl said, there are no indicators that Kelsey was at risk or living a reckless lifestyle or anything like that. And so you're able to kind of undermine those defenses from the outset.
And you're going to laugh, but what about this, Eric Faddis? I would even want to know, did she buy a whole turkey? Okay. I get a whole turkey.
Sure.
In fact, we have a turkey off every Thanksgiving. I bake a turkey in the oven. My husband smokes a turkey. One year he even fried one. And then we compare. And everybody that eats with us compares.
Who wins?
They always vote for David. Of course, that's not true. They're just trying to spare his feelings. I'm sure they really like mine better. But that said, did she just get a turkey breast like that big? Did she get some slices of turkey? You can get that at the grocery store. Or did she get the whole thing? My point is, how many people was she expecting to feed? Were they coming to her home? Who were they? Did they know about her life? Were they just neighbors? Were they family? Who were they? I want to know who's coming over for dinner. I want to know every single thing, right down to what size turkey she bought and how much stuff she got at the grocery store, because I want to know who was in her life and who was coming over. But there was no turkey dinner. That never happened. Listen to this.
A few days after her disappearance, detectives say a text message was sent from her phone to her employer saying she would not be showing up to work for a week. The following week, another text was sent to her fiancé. Cell phone tower data indicates her phone was hundreds of miles outside Gooding, Idaho, but investigators have not found Berreth there.
When the person starts missing work, Alexis Tereszcuk, this is a woman that had gone out and gotten her pilot's license. She was a professional pilot. She bought her own home. She was raising her daughter alone with the bio dad, having regular visitation. She was doing it all on her own. She never missed a work appointment. She never missed a flight. Not one blemish on her aviation record at all. And now she calls in sick. No. Texts. And then her phone is pinging. Where did her phone ping, Alexis Tereszcuk?
800 miles away in Idaho. And she didn't just say, I'm going to be out for one day. She said, I'm going to be gone for a week. I mean, that's not what you tell your boss. If you're taking a week off, if one day you're sick, I'm not coming in, fine. A week is not how people do things.
And what about your baby? Have you made any arrangements for someone to take care of the baby? The dad just comes, picks up the baby for visitation, and then you just leave without any plans at all. Hey, I've got to go out of town on a trip. I'll be back on this date. This is where I am. Here's my location in case there's some kind of an emergency. Call me. Let's FaceTime, blah, blah. Nothing, right? None of that.
No, nothing at all. Nothing.
I mean, Alexis.
And the phone was found 800 miles away.
You do know when I go to any courthouse, like I was just in Idaho on Brian Kohberger. I was just at the Hugo Black courthouse for Jorn Vandersloot's sentencing, that piece of crap. I traveled to Manhattan to shoot the ID, Investigation Discovery show in New York. If I did not have FaceTime, I would be miserable because I can't talk or see the twins. So you want to tell me Kelsey Berreth just takes off for a week with no plan to FaceTime, to talk, nothing with the baby Kaylee? I don't believe it.
No, she was sending text messages. The baby daddy's getting a text message.
A baby doesn't want a text message, Alexis. No baby wants a text. Babies don't have cell phones, Alexis. They want to talk to mommy. They want to see mommy. They want to be with mommy. But then the days drag on. Let's take a listen to Chief Miles DeYoung from Woodland PD.
Based on information developed during the course of this investigation, and because of the length of time, it's been 23 days that has passed since Kelsey was last seen, our investigators believe that Kelsey's disappearance is more suspicious and that she is not intentionally avoiding efforts to find her. We are looking at all avenues and our focus is on finding Kelsey. Investigators obtained a search warrant yesterday, on a property nearby in Teller County, Colorado. That search is currently being conducted. This property is where Patrick Frazee is known to reside.
So Kelsey Berreth's phone pings 800 miles away, yet the Woodland Park PD is searching a nearby property, a farm belonging to bio dad, fiancé, Patrick Frazee. Listen.
We are asking Patrick to sit down with investigators since he is the last person to talk with Kelsey face-to-face based on our investigation. There have been numerous questions about whether Patrick is a suspect or a person of interest. At this point, we are considering every possibility, and I'm not willing to jump to conclusions or label people involved in this highly complex investigation. Do I think Kelsey's still alive? That's absolutely a possibility, and that is our hope.
What was the probable cause to search the home?
So in order for us to get a search warrant, we have to have enough information for a judge to sign off on it. We did have enough information. A judge did sign off on that search warrant, and that's all I can comment on that sealed search warrant.
Yeah. Why did it take so long? And to you, Eric Faddis, partner Varner Faddis, Elite Legal in that jurisdiction of Colorado, could you explain in simple terms, we're not the Colorado Court of Appeals, you don't need to impress us with Latin phrases, the difference between a POI, person of interest, and a suspect?
You know, these are terms of art that law enforcement uses. Suspect is when, they really believe that this person had some criminal involvement, whereas person of interest is kind of just,
you're interested.
They're associated in some way,
You're
with
curious.
the investigation. Yeah, right.
Would you agree, Eric Faddis, you started off by saying it was a term of art. That's exactly what it is. If the cops say you're a suspect, then all sorts of constitutional protections immediately surround you. If you're a POI, maybe not.
Yeah, I think that a lot of those constitutional amendments and rights can attach once the person is a suspect, certainly once they're being interrogated by law enforcement, maybe they're being detained in custody during that interrogation. That is when those rights, rights to an attorney, rights to remain silent, that's when those rights really attach. Whereas person of interest, it's a lot more kind of squishy.
And of course, Dr. Jory Crossan, of course, you're going to look at the fiancé. Get used to it. Every fiancé, husband, ex, former, boyfriend, that goes for women too. Wife, girlfriend, ex. You're the first suspect. They're looking at you first because statistically, Dr. Jory Crossan, that's who did it. Statistically, not always, but often.
But that's correct. And that would be being a police officer too, and handling cases like this. They would be the first person we would go to as far as, again, starting to establish background information and look for any deviation in her background history of behavior. Like the one with the child, leaving the child with him and then just disappearing. I mean, that doesn't make any logical sense or even psychological sense for the victim.
Exactly. Take a listen to more from Chief Miles DeYoung.
Why did it take so long before the home was searched?
That's a very good question. Why did it take so long to search the home? There are a number of other things that we have done up to this point that have led to us being able to search the residence at this point.
In your remarks, you just said that you were asking Frazee to talk with investigators. His lawyer has been saying that you've been cooperative. Has something changed? Why did you specifically publicly ask him to talk to investigators?
We have yet to have him sit down with one of our investigators, and that's what we're asking for, is just for him to sit down with an investigator, since he was the last person to talk with Kelsey face-to-face from what we can tell.
Is he saying no when you're asking him to do this?
Not at this time.
Have you asked him outside of this press conference to sit down with you? Is he refusing that conversation?
He is communicating with us through his attorney, and that's about all I can say on that.
Did he deny your searching the residence to begin with?
That's just part of the investigation at this time.
Speaking to us through his lawyers, Cheryl McCollum with me, forensic expert at coldcasecrimes.org. Cheryl, that stinks. You know who I always hold up as the gold standard? Mark Klassen.
Yeah.
You know this. Mark Klassen's daughter, Polly, went missing from a spend-the-night party at the mom's house. They come beating down Mark's door. He's like, come in. You don't need a warrant. Search my whole place, search my car, search my garage, search my office, take my blood, take my fingerprints, do whatever you have to do so you can go out and find the person that really took my daughter. And now this guy will only speak to the PD through his lawyers? Really?
That's a big old red flag. And the other thing is, we already know he's the last person to see her alive. And then we work backwards. Talk to her mama. She wanted that recipe to feed how many people? 1, 4, 5? Because here's what we know. There weren't a whole bunch of guests that showed up Thanksgiving and she didn't answer the door. So why wasn't she reported missing earlier?
Exactly, Cheryl. Exactly. So the chief of police is being asked about the boyfriend, the fiancé, Patrick Frazee, what happened to Kelsey. But there's a very disturbing reason that guests were not invited into the home for Thanksgiving dinner. And let's just hear it from the horse's mouth. Take a listen to the mistress of Patrick Frazee. Now remember, he's engaged to Kelsey Berreth. They're going to get married. Kelsey has given birth to his baby girl, right? So who the hey is the so-called rodeo queen, Krystal Lee, and what does she say she observed inside Kelsey's home? Listen.
When I first walked in, I saw blood all over the floor. I saw blood up the wall, saw blood on this wall.
And?
I didn't see anything. I was specifically told to clean the bathroom.
Okay.
So, but I didn't see anything. There might have been blood. There was a lot of blood. So they're on the floor, all over the floor. And there may have been bloody footprints in here, but I don't specifically remember.
Okay.
I wiped the sink down. I wiped the toilet, the top of the toilet. I turned on the shower just in case there was stuff in the bottom. I didn't see anything in the bottom of the shower.
She's as calm and cool as a cucumber, isn't she?
Sure is.
I mean, did you hear what she says? When I first walked in, I saw blood all over the floor. I saw blood up the wall. There was a lot of blood on the floor, all over the floor. There may have been bloody footprints. I wiped the sink down. I wiped the toilet, the top of the toilet. I turned on the shower just in case there was stuff in the bottom. She sounds like she's reading off the grocery list. I'll take a pound of ground beef and let's see, some tomato paste. That's what she sounds like. To Dr. Tim Gallagher, special guest joining us, medical examiner for the state of Florida, lecturer, University of Florida Medical School Forensic Medicine, and importantly, the founder of the International Forensic Medicine Death Investigation Conference. You can find him at pathcaremed.com. Dr. Gallagher, how much blood is in the human body?
Well, there are approximately 5 liters of blood in the human body. That's about 5 quarts of blood in the human body. And in order to get somebody to die from exsanguination, which is the loss of blood, they must lose about 3 quarts of that blood, to enact the fatal response.
So you are saying the human body has about 5 quarts of blood, right? Isn't that what you said?
Exactly, right.
So a little over a gallon, a little over like a gallon of milk?
Right, if you think about a gallon of milk and then a quart of milk sitting next to it, that's about how much blood the average human body has in it.
Is it based on how big the person is? Like a person that weighs 100 pounds has less blood than a person that weighs 300 pounds?
It is, and also depends on what's going on with them. For instance, women typically have a little less blood, but if they're pregnant or if they're heavy, their body does tend to produce extra blood to compensate for the extra tissue and compensate for the extra weight, and even compensate for the fetus that may be gestating inside of her. So it just depends on a lot of things, but on the average, at least a gallon, if not more than that.
I'm thinking this through, that this woman, Krystal Lee Kenney, as I call her, the rodeo queen, and I call her that because she was voted the rodeo queen, goes into this home and she sees, Cheryl McCollum, about a gallon of human blood all over the floor, up the walls. Does she call 911? No. She doesn't call 911. She starts cleaning up. And if I'm right, Alexis Tereshchuk, didn't she have on like a hazmat suit, a protective suit with rubber gloves?
Yes, she had booties, gloves, a white suit, a thing on her hair net. She was fully like, Breaking Bad. Would that be a good comparison?
So in other words, she didn't go in and was surprised, Cheryl McCollum.
No.
She went in with her mop and broom and her rubber gloves and booties on.
Well, Nancy, there was nobody better than you to paint a picture for a jury. So I want to try to paint a picture. There was blood on the floor, on the walls, on the carpet, behind the sofa, on the windowsills, on kitchen appliances, on the pillows, on the sofa. But let me tell you, she found blood splattered on the baby's stuffed animals. She found so much splattered with blood that she filled 6 trash bags of items she couldn't clean.
I'm just thinking about this mom who was planning this beautiful meal for her family. She's gone. Her phone is pinging 800 miles away. And now you've got her fiance's mistress waltzing around cleaning it up with a mop and a broom. No wonder the place looked spotless when police got there. Listen.
Did you say that you cleaned off some of the appliances?
I did. I wiped there was blood on the front of the dishwasher. There was blood on the front of the stove. There was that cinnamon roll pan had blood on the tinfoil on top of it.
So let me go back. There was tinfoil on top
of the cinnamon roll pan that was sitting right there.
And what did you do with the tinfoil?
I put it in the rest of the stuff.
Okay.
There was blood on top of the coffee maker. There was blood. In fact, I had to climb up. There was a blood spatter up high.
How'd you climb up?
I just climbed up right here.
And more.
I moved to the couch. I wiped the couch off. There was blood behind the couch down the wall. There was a stand, some sort of stand right there by the couch, and the lamp and that basket were on it. I worked from that side all the way around, did the upstairs, and then I did the bathroom and the kitchen and mopped the floors.
So she cleaned off the coffee maker. She moved the couch. She mopped and cleaned and shined and sparkled the entire home. But there's more blood. Listen.
Was there any blood on the TV, do you remember? Yeah, there was blood on the TV. Okay. There was blood on the chairs. There was blood on this chair. There was blood on the table. There was blood on the Hobby Lobby bag that was sitting there.
Blood everywhere. So, did she call 911? No, she didn't. To you, Alexis Tereszchuk, what happened to Kelsey Berreth?
Her fiancé, the father of her child, murdered her. He planned it for months. And he even tried to get this girlfriend to do it with him. He tried to have her poison her. He said, you need to go fill up her Starbucks cup of coffee with poison and give it to her. He was planning to kill her for months in any way that he could. And he finally went into the house, took a baseball bat and beat her so much. But she was actually able to say, he said, let's play a game. I got all these great candles. You put on a blindfold and tell me if you can tell what scent they are. Sort of maybe a romantic game before then. We go in the bedroom. So she puts on the blindfold and he doesn't light the candles. He beats her over the head with a baseball bat, beats her all over the house, chases her around the house, blood, body parts flying everywhere. There was even a tooth in a vent that he had his girlfriend clean up. He slaughtered her. And then he took her body 800 miles away to Idaho and he burned it in the field behind his home.
I'm trying to take in everything I'm hearing. Cheryl McCollum, the tooth they found. Just, this baby is going to grow up and know everything that we're saying. And the level of planning, trying to put the mistress up to killing his fiancé. I mean, Cheryl, they weren't even married. They could just break up, right? So
they could just break up. Yep.
The crime scene shows the level of depravity of the fiancé, Patrick Frazee.
When you go into a scene like that, you're going to look for cast-off patterns from that baseball bat, and you're going to be able to determine how many times he hit her in that direction. Everywhere that blood landed, you're going to be able to see where he was standing. Did he walk around and just keep hitting her? And Nancy, let's talk about the other girlfriend for a minute. For 800 miles, she drove. So every mile, she had 800 times she could have turned around. 800 times she could have called her family or a friend or the police. And she didn't. At no time when she was cleaning that scene for 4 hours did she call anybody. At no time when she drove back home 800 miles did she call. While she stood there and watched him burn an innocent person, she called nobody.
Actually, speaking of the burning, she then takes investigators on a tour of the farm where she stood by knowing that Patrick Frazee was burning the body of this young mom, Kelsey Berreth. Listen.
We talked for probably an hour and a half. He needed to do his chores. He went in and got his little girl. I carried his little girl around while he finished his chores. Heard the smell. Sat and got that.
Oh, okay.
Sat in the spot with the little girl because it was snowing. From there, I told him I have to leave. He gave me Kelsey's phone and gave me instructions on what to do with the phone.
Woman, you can rot in hell right along with Patrick Frazee. She's like, he did this and he did this and he told me to do this and he told me to do that. You're part of it, rodeo queen. You're going to have supper with Satan, mark my words, and that's not all. Listen.
Pallets went into the fire. The materials from her home.
And those were in what?
Garbage bags.
Okay.
Everything was in garbage bags.
Black garbage bags, white garbage bags?
2 white garbage bags and I believe 4 black garbage bags. The gasoline, the motor oil. There were a couple of buckets. He poured gasoline in the bucket and pitched it into the fire.
And she stood by and watched it happen. And I guarantee you that there were members of Patrick Frazee's family that knew exactly what was going on. So he's the devil and she's Beelzebub. But how does that play out? Listen to our cut 12. Again, the chief of police, Miles DeYoung.
Today we arrested Patrick Frazee on charges of first-degree murder of Kelsey Berreth, and he is currently being held in the Teller County Jail. As a reminder, Patrick Frazee is presumed innocent until proven guilty. Patrick Frazee was taken into custody this morning in Florissant, Colorado, just after 7 o'clock this morning, Mountain Standard Time, by members of the multi-jurisdictional task force, including the Teller County Sheriff's Office and the FBI. Patrick was taken to the Teller County Jail, where he'll be held. Kelsey's daughter, Kaylee, is in protective custody and will be reunited with Kelsey's family.
I want you to hear what the prosecutor had to say in our cut 21.
Krystal tells us that on November 22nd, Thanksgiving, Patrick kills Kelsey in a horrific manner with a bat in the back of the head as Kelsey is sniffing candles with a blindfold over her eyes. Krystal tells us that Patrick then calls her after he has put Kelsey in a black plastic tote, calls Krystal to come out and help him clean up. She does not come out that day. She cannot come out that day, but she does come out. And as Krystal describes, when she walks into Kelsey's condo, the scene is horrific. There's blood everywhere. There are bloody footprints everywhere. And Krystal cleans up blood, but leaves behind some telltale evidence for our investigators to find.
Frazee is convicted, but guess what? He has appealed his conviction. His first appeal was rejected by the Court of Appeals. But guess what? Krystal, the rodeo queen, as we call her, because she was in fact voted a rodeo queen, Krystal Kenney is walking free. Why is that? Why is that, Alexis Tereshuk?
Well, she was sentenced to, she took a plea deal. She was the star witness. She had a deal with the prosecutors that she would tell them everything she knew, and they would only sentence her to about 18 months. So the plea happened. The judge said, I'm going to give you more time because this is such a horrific crime. And even though you cooperated, you didn't do anything to stop this crime. You had hundreds of miles. The judge said to her, you could have called the police. You could have called anybody. You didn't have to cover this up. And you knew it was going to happen ahead of time. So he gave her a longer sentence. She appealed that. The appellate court ruled in her favor. So he had to reverse the longer sentence and give her 18 months in prison. And she had already served that. So she got out. She was basically out of prison in a mere 18 months and has 1 year of probation.
So this woman who mopped up Kelsey's blood is walking free. To you, Eric Faddis, you know, I have a saying that I've told juries before. Sometimes you got to go to hell to get your witness to put the devil in jail. Sometimes you cut a deal, whether you like it or not, so you can get the main perpetrator. But frankly, in this case, I don't think they needed Krystal Kenney. I think they could have proven the case against Frazee without her. And she could be in jail right now, too.
Yeah, you know, Nancy, it's a tough call because murderers don't hang out with Mother Teresa's, right? They're hanging out with kind of the bottom of the barrel. And you know, enter into the chat, Krystal Lee Kenney. She did have a lot of information in terms of confessions that Patrick Frazee had made to her regarding the killing, regarding the cover-up, regarding intending to do something bad to the victim. And so her testimony was certainly valuable. If the prosecutors needed to convict him, that part is still kind of an open question.
You know what? Cheryl McConley's a terrible, terrible taste in my mouth. As we approach Thanksgiving, to think about what happened to Kelsey Berreth, and by burning her body, her little girl, Kaylee, doesn't even have a grave, a marker, nothing to go and visit. Nothing at all.
Patrick made it clear to Krystal he wanted Kelsey dead. He asked her to do it 3 times. 3 times, Nancy, and told her how to do it. And when you think about who could have stopped this, she was the only one that could have. Krystal's the only one that could have stopped it.
Dr. Tim Gallagher, when you burn a body, can you get rid? And I mean, it's not an incinerator, it's a fire. Can you actually let the fire burn until there's no trace of human bones left, or is that impossible?
Yeah, that's impossible with a wood fire. The wood fire probably reaches about 1,400 degrees, and if you really want to incinerate somebody, as they do in cremation, you have to use propane gas or natural gas, and that fire has to reach well over 3,000 degrees. Even still, you would still have some bone remains, which would be ground up, you know, at the crematorium, but teeth can remain. Dental work can remain, and some other the ends of your long bones, for instance, your femurs, your humerus bone, those tend to remain in spite of the high temperatures as well.
Dr. Gallagher, I got a question for you following up on something you just said, before I forget it. We know that Patrick Frazee poured gas in motor oil onto the fire. Would that have worked as an accelerant that may have gotten rid of all trace of her bones? I'm just trying to think of how the prosecutor could prove this case without using the rodeo queen and putting her behind bars for life too.
Right. So the gasoline would accelerate the burning of the body temporarily. It'll burn off very quickly within 5-10 minutes. That'll be gone. But what it does is it ignites the wood, and that's what perpetuates the fire. So even if they're using gasoline in the beginning, that's not going to have any effect on the loss, the total loss of all the bone or all the DNA material. That just sets the wood on fire.
Guys, well, I think about Kelsey Berreth and her little girl, Kaylee, who we continue to pray for. It makes our Thanksgiving all the more sweet when we gather with our friends and family, or even on our own, and we thank God for our lives and all of our blessings. I pause and I think about all those people less fortunate than we are. And I think about little Kaylee every Thanksgiving and how she gets through that day. I'll finish with this. Rodeo Queen Krystal Lee Kenney, you're going to hell. And guess who you'll meet at the front gate? Patrick Frazee. Goodbye, friends. Guys, thank you for watching Crime Online with Nancy Grace here on YouTube. To get the very latest, subscribe to Crime Online here